And I think recruiting at every level, if you can't recruit, you can't win. You have to learn how to recruit.
I will not go below 30 unless the player's an absolute stud as far as work ethic.
We'll congratulate each other and chug some beers if somebody wins a national championship.
If they did, don't you think I'd have 2 championships by now? I might have 3.
Now, I know Cash uses those booster gifts. He's always promising cash and women, right?
I've only been caught twice. That's it.
Welcome to another episode of This, That, and the Other. I'm your host, Majique. For some reason, it's saying that we are recording this broadcast instead of it being live. So I'm hoping that's just a glitch on StreamYard's end, and we are actually live. But hopefully, anybody that's gotten the link on the Gridiron Dynasty forum, they can still join us and pose some questions and enter into a discussion with us. Regardless, tonight we're going to have a guest on the show. Jordan is joining us, and he's got some news to share with the folks out there. So Jordan's been on the show a while ago, actually, and he's offered to come back on and share some news with us. So let's bring Jordan on. How you doing, Jordan?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Mike. How are you?
Doing well, brother. Doing well. Again, I know you were on the show previously, but you got some news to share with the community out there. Are you ready to let that cat out of the bag, as they say?
Yeah. So Chris just posted about it on the forums about an hour ago now. It looks like he did make it official. But I am the customer service rep now, strictly for water sports. So I will be the point of contact for the community, as well as responsible for answering tickets and anything that comes in on that front. So trying to get engaged back with the community. And then if you haven't seen, that is because Adam is no longer with Sports Hub.
Yeah, and can you elaborate on that, or can you let us know?
Yeah, so I mean, I think he was very passionate about the game and the company, and he wanted to stay around. It wasn't like he was actively looking. An opportunity that came up from a previous employer, and it was a job that he absolutely couldn't pass up. It's something he's been wanting to do, something he's also passionate about. And so he just took that opportunity and went that route.
Yeah. Well, I know he was very passionate about what we were doing here as far as the community outreach. And I know that carried over into some of the behind the scenes stuff that he was doing as well. When you're talking about the developing the program, basically fixing some of the potential issues that are there and addressing some of the known issues. And between he and Chris, I think they did an admirable job. Definitely appreciate all of Adam's tireless efforts, because I know at times he was late into the night working on some of this stuff. So, you can't have that kind of work time if you're really not passionate about what you're doing. But he was definitely passionate, and going to reach out to him here shortly and definitely wish him all the best. I wanted to wait until everything was official, as they say, but who knows? We may run into him sometime in the future and get the benefit of his experience and expertise somewhere else down the road. But like I said, if not, definitely run into him somewhere else, I'm sure.
As far as probably will plan on sticking around, at least Hoops Dynasty maybe for a little bit. He likes that one.
Yeah, exactly. That was his preferred of all of them. Now, speaking of which is your preferred play? Is it Gridiron Dynasty or Hoops? What are the other interests that you ventured into?
So I have played Water Sports since 2004. So I've done it all. I stick to the Dynasty games for the most part. GD is probably where I have the most experience, but I've done several hardball dynasties, several Hoops dynasties. I haven't dabbled too much in the sim league. That's something I look to pick up kind of as I settle into this role, to familiarize myself with those games, how they work, their nuances, that community, and everything there. So Gridiron Dynasty is definitely where I have most of my experience, but I've done almost every game out there so far.
Now, as far as the customer rep goes, is that going to be broad as far as Hoops Dynasty, baseball, all that, or are you just centrally focused on Gridiron Dynasty?
It's all of them. So everything will come to one spot, and I will kind of be the center and the meeting point for all of the community to kind of kind of mediate or be the middleman between the developers and as well as the community, for feedback from both sides about anything we have going on or something the community wants to see happen, and things like that.
And I'm sure there are folks out there who wonder just how much activity is involved in your position. I know you've only been in there for a few short, hours, actually, 3 days or so.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea yet of the ticket volume that comes in and how much of that belongs to Gridiron Dynasty?
Yeah, so from what I've done so far, the ticket volume is pretty consistent. They come through pretty regularly for throughout the day. Overnight even. I come back in the morning and there's already several sitting in there. But as far as what's been Gridiron Dynasty, actually so far it's not been too much from Gridiron. I've had quite a bit of hoops and a ton of hardball and sim league stuff. Just because I think with the hardball and the sim leagues, they're constantly shifting owners around, because they do longer seasons. So sometimes owners stop or don't stop playing the game or whatever, or want out. So we do that quite a bit of shifting some of those owners around because they don't want to play anymore. So, but yeah, I mean that's all. I've seen it all already so far.
Now, are we talking hundreds of tickets a day or 10 or 15?
No. In between, I would say. It's not hundreds, and it's more than 15 to 20. I would say it probably maybe gets to the 30 to 40 right now, from what they have me working. But yeah, as you said, I've only been here for a couple of days, so I kind of get just the simple version of what we got going.
Now, are you the only one filling that position, or are there additional personnel that we're unaware of?
So there's one other person hired for What Is Sports right now, specifically a second developer. His name is Jacob. He was hired, I think, somewhere in June. So he's been around for a little bit, already kind of got his feet wet. He's been a great resource for me already. But as far as like community interaction, I think him and Chris plan to kind of take maybe more of a back seat on that. They'll help and obviously still be around. Right. But I think they kind of want to funnel it toward one person, kind of have everything go into one place.
Well, that it speaks to itself to a lot more consistency. When you've got 3 or 4 people there who don't necessarily have an expertise by having played the game for 10 or 15 years across all the platforms that What If Sports offers, you're going to get personal opinions and experience mixed in with some of those answers that may or may not be spot on. So
Right.
I know that you've got that Gridiron Dynasty background. You've got the hoops as well. So I think we can rely on your responses for the Gridiron Dynasty aspect. At least we hope so.
Hopefully, yes. That's what I'm hoping for, and all of them. And I think even still, there's just stuff that maybe. I mean, no matter how long you play the game, there's just stuff that comes up that you maybe haven't encountered. So we'll constantly go through those hoops as we get them.
Sure. Now, as far as contacting you directly via site mail, or do you prefer the folks to contact you directly through the customer support process?
I mean, if it's like an actual issue and you're having something wrong with the game, or you don't like the way something's simulated or whatever like that, I would prefer, go through the proper channels, submit a ticket, go through that way, try to be as specific as possible. If it's something where you're just asking about, I don't know, or just, I don't mind, like, Adam, I thought did a real good job with the community engagement and just kind of maybe shooting the breeze with people here and there, or just, that. If it's something like that, I don't mind answering site mails. I will say my focus is more on the tickets, so I may not like see your site mail for a while, but I'm active on the site daily, and so I will get to your site mail at some point. But if it is more like, business related or something that you need or want resolved or have maybe a technical question about, that definitely stick with those coming through the ticket system.
Are those customer service tickets answered routinely in about a day, or like you said, you've reached out to some of the other staff members there? So are we talking 2-day turnaround, 1 day? I know my personal experience has been easy ones. I need to change a guy's name because I got 7 of them on the same position on the field or whatever. Those are usually done within a couple minutes, literally. But I'm sure there's some other ones that take some background work.
Yeah, so since I'm able to focus strictly on What If Sports and my role is strictly, dealing with community issues, I've been trying to get to them pretty quickly. If it's something I don't know, it's going to take me a little longer because I have to consult, Chris or Jacob, and see what they need. Or if it's a technical thing, sometimes they have to access things that I can't see as far as information in the system. So it may take a little longer. But right now I'm trying to get everything answered within a matter of minutes, because I am constantly on the ticket site. And if it's something I can't get resolved within a day, I will definitely at least just get an answer out to you. Say, hey, we're still working on this. We haven't figured out a solution. I'll be in contact with you tomorrow. But we're definitely trying to get everything responded within a day. Weekends, as it may, right now with training, I won't be on so much on the weekends maybe, but down the road, that might be something that I plan on doing, and just so that I'm constantly able to resolve any issues that might come up, especially things that happen to be an emergency or whatever.
Sure. Now, you touched on it briefly in your reply there, which was going to be my next question, is how much of the inner workings did they give you access to, without getting too involved? But I mean, are you able to actually go into some of the coding and see why a game didn't sim properly? Or again, is that something Chris does?
Yeah, I can't see any of the coding specifically or really change much on the site. For my role, mostly I can view information that maybe you can't see when you're a typical user. So I can see some behind the scenes information. I can see things from like the user's point of view. So if they're having an issue about why their depth chart isn't staying or whatever it is, I can go in and I can see what they're seeing, so that it helps me understand their issue. Because obviously from my usernames, I wouldn't be able to see their depth charts or anything, so I would have no idea maybe why it's sticking around. So I can access like user interfaces a little bit, but as far as any coding or even any like maybe like factors that change things, I can't see any of those.
Or the individual, how do I phrase this? The individual coaches setups, like their game plan setup, or their
It's
their
mostly just the
positions
interface, right? Yeah, just the interface to kind of like just see basic stuff. I don't dive into any of their nuances or their secrets or anything like that.
Again, for those, we've got some folks joining us that are backstage. This was supposed to be live, and I understand that is probably being recorded for a replay later on. But nonetheless, those who have access to the Gridiron Dynasty forum link can come on and chat with us. Like I said, we've got some folks in the background there that don't wish to be on. So if they have a question, they can just let me know through the private chat, and we can get them on. But as far as the information goes, for those who are just joining us, Jordan is now the new customer service rep, and he's the one that has essentially taken that portion of Adam's role when it dealt with the face part of What If Sports with the community, interacting, the liaison with the community essentially, and handling those customer support tickets. So, we haven't said it, but definitely welcome to that new position. Glad to have you there, and glad to know it's, and I don't mean this in a demeaning manner, but I'm glad to know it's not just somebody off the street, somebody that actually knows, when they see some of the terminology, the phraseology, or some of the abbreviations, they're not sending a ticket back going, what does that mean?
Right. And I think that was a big thing when I saw that they had posted on there. That was a big thing when going through the process, that they wanted somebody who had been active in the community. They didn't want somebody who's never played any of the games to try to come in, and that learning curve would just be crazy. So they definitely wanted to focus on people who had experience within What If Sports. So yeah, I think it's a good fit, having played all the games pretty much.
Now, how much of the process can you share with us? I mean, was it something that you replied to, or did they reach out to you personally, or
how did
that get started?
I didn't know about it at first, and a friend of mine had seen the post on the forums, and he sent me the Indeed link, and I've literally for years I talked to Sybil. I had talked to, even before Sybil, I said, if you guys need a backup at customer service, I was like, I will help in any way possible.
Exactly.
And so when I saw it, I was like, I have to take a shot at this. Like, this is something I have wanted to do forever. I have a background in dealing with customer service. I've done like the financial industry, banking industry, face-to-face customer service, that kind of a thing. And so Trevor reached out, and we had an interview, and the rest is history. Now,
as far as your full-time, daytime job, is this it for you, or is this like a secondary job and you have a regular put the coat and tie on, go to work 8 to 9 or 8 to 5 every day?
Well, so both. This is actually a full-time position, so I am doing this during the day. My other position, my job that I had before I got this job, is actually overnights, and so
Oh,
they kind of go hand in hand and work really well. And I'm able to actually do both of them. So, very
wow.
excited to. Yes, it's been an undertaking so far, but like I said, like where I work currently, I really like that job. But to pass up an opportunity is something that I'm passionate about. I couldn't miss that opportunity. So.
How much can you tell us about the efforts underway regarding a potential modernization of the game or the next big update that's out there? I know Adam had alluded to something in the November, December timeframe. What's the latest and greatest?
Yeah, so they do a weekly sync up, him and Jacob, which I sit in on to kind of get an idea of what the outlook looks like, or the game plan that we're going with. And he alluded to it a little bit actually in his post. So if you guys haven't seen, there is a post by Adam about laying out, or not Adam, I'm sorry, Chris, laying out some of that in the critical news staffing update there on What If Sports forums. But he in there, if you're talking GD specific, we have whatever the 4.0, that I'll be honest, that they had kind of admitted is kind of put on the back burner. They had some issues running into licensing and EA coming out with their new video game that really put a big hindrance on things. But as far as, just other developments, then they're not saying 4.0 won't happen. They're still, but it just needs to be put back for now and focus on some other things until they can figure that part out. But, he had alluded to, at first I think he had mentioned that Chris is when I say he, I'm talking to Chris. He had mentioned that maybe Sim League Baseball would be kind of the first one because it's a simpler one. It's going to be easier to revamp and kind of release. But GD is a priority for them. He said it's definitely one of the top couple on the list. They want to work on bringing out an app form of the game, so being able to do that mobile. That's a huge priority for them. Yep, I think that's really good too. They want to bring it out that way. He had talked about, at some point, and no one really hold me to any of this. This is just conversations of where we want to go and some of the first changes we see. So I don't want anyone to be like, well, you said this was going to happen, just in case. But he did mention, bringing out a playoff in D1. We were bouncing ideas off each other today too about, with the fluid elites. I coach elites and I am for the fluid elites. I think it's a great idea. And I think, something similar to Hoops Dynasty, the coding probably shouldn't be too hard. You can, code it off of that. So between that and the playoffs, I think those are some simpler fixes that could happen. He's already sounds like he's got some interface stuff going as far as the app and maybe just a new interface for the site as a whole. They're looking to modernize that, maybe steer away from so much the site mail and introduce maybe some chat type features and things that will make communication between users a little bit easier and a little bit quicker. And then I think that was pretty much it. I think I was going to say one more thing, but I lost my train of thought there.
You're going to say that
to me, I'll bring it up.
And Shannon mentioned it. You're going to say that the next big thing is to bring OU and Texas into the SEC.
Conference realignment. Yeah, no, not about that. So
that's going to be a nightmare. When and if that conference realignment happens in What If Sports, it's going to be a nightmare simply because, and we've talked about this on previous shows, you've got D1 AA schools that are now D1. You've got D2 schools that are now D1, and it's just, do those coaches automatically get a bump up to D1A? And what if they don't want to coach D1A? Right. Do they get
some programs don't even exist anymore? Like I coached Nebraska Omaha in a world, or did, and they don't even have football anymore. So what do you do?
It's crazy out there with the reality versus the matchup, line by line item with what we've got here, because this is 20 years old.
Right.
So it's, like you said, some programs don't even exist anymore. What are probably the number one thing that you see because I know people are still doing it, sending in, y'all need to change this, y'all need to change that. I know you talked about some of the things that are on the pecking sheet, if you will, but what are some of the things that you see most often as far as somebody's Christmas wish that GD needs to fix or change right now?
Are you talking just looking through the community and things I've seen? Yeah.
Yeah, or even through tickets.
Yeah, tickets so far I haven't gotten so much of that recommendation. Most of it right now has still been like, hey, my game plan set to this. Why didn't this happen? Or can you tell me why we did this on fourth down or whatever? I've had a couple of those. But as far as recommendations, they haven't come through too bad yet. But I feel like I see the Fluid Elite is a huge one that I see a lot. The playoff is a lot, which I think those are those are the two of the top priorities. I think for the most part, I think they're okay with how the game simulates. Chris and I were kind of talking about that. I mean, everyone's going to have a fourth down situation they feel like should have gone a different way, or
exactly.
I mean, an onside kick recovery. Yes, when they recover 3 in a row, 2 in a row, that's extraneous and probably doesn't happen in real life. So I get something like that. But for the most part, I think we're all pretty happy with how the game simulates. That's why we're sticking around. We've stuck it out this long, right? So it's not like the game needs a big overhaul on that front. I think some just modernization of it. I think that will be good. I think the playoffs would be huge just because we're kind of trying to replicate real life there to an extent. So I think more of that kind of fixes what we need, and Chris did mention that fixes for a while there, they were doing a monthly, kind of just small pushes here and there. He had talked about maybe trying to do some more bigger updates, but they would be more on a quarterly basis. So that we wouldn't see anything for a few months, and then he'd see a big push, and it might revolve the game. So it would be like GD one quarter, then HD the next corner or whatever. So trying to do it that way.
Yeah. Now, since I've got you here, I'll share with you, and you, I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there that still continue to have some issues with the not being able to change positions. And for those that are new to the game, who may only know the game where you can only change positions for the first 5 games, before that, it was anytime during the season, which some coaches used to their advantage by changing players' positions late in the season, or even after the playoffs or in the bowl game, just to kind of throw the opposing coach off a little bit and give him an unseen wrinkle. Right, wrong, or indifferent, I mean, that happens today. You've got athletes out there that are playing tight end or whatever the case may be, and next thing you know, he's a running back, and there's really little that suffers, or even vice versa.
Right.
It depends on the formation. You may have a wide receiver that ends up as a tight end. So understand that the reality aspect is anybody can, if he's an athlete, can pretty much be moved. The concern here is that some coaches were making position moves throughout the end part of their season because they were trying to sabotage the team because they were leaving, and now the team was essentially destroyed. Nobody would want it. It would be a sim forever. And those type of nefarious activities were what prompted the curtailing of the all-season position changes. Granted, it stops that to a great degree, and kudos. But here's my concern. Is when you're a new coach in a job change period, let's say I'm going from D2 to D1 AA, and I take over a team at that level, the season is over. I can't make any position changes until those freshmen are sophomores. And we know that once you do that, those sophomores take a greater hit than they would if they were freshmen. And I addressed it with Adam once. I said, is there a way for the program to actually understand that once the season is over, and a coach has renewed, that he should be able to make those position changes for the benefit of his team, or if a new coach comes in for the benefit of his team. If a guy is staying at a program and he doesn't have any seasons left, then he shouldn't be able to make changes. He shouldn't be able to do some of the things that other coaches can do that are going to be there for a while. Now, having said that, what is, not just What If Sports, but what are your thoughts on that, being from now on the other side of the table with customer support?
I think it's got both, right? So you want to stop the people who are abusing it, which they've done, and I think that's good. But you also do want to, you want to make it as realistic as possible. You want to kind of also cater to those who use the position changes a lot, right? So I think something that it's not obviously been a discussion, but, an idea that just kind of popped in my head while you were talking there could be something to where you're allowed to maybe make a player move. If it's at the end of the postseason, you can do kind of like you mentioned, where as long as you renewed, like you want to move, 5 more guys or whatever, go ahead and move 5 more guys. Because I don't really know that you need more than that. I don't foresee people taking their entire offensive line and making them all tight ends or something. But so maybe doing something like that, where at some point you could get 5 at the end of the season, and then I think if you wanted to do it in the middle of the season, and it was after that for initial set of games, so you couldn't technically do it anymore. Maybe something where a temporary switch, because a lot of people, in real life, when they do that switch, they might try it out and it may not work. Or, you'll see Ndamukong Suh come in as a fullback, in a bowl game or something like that. So something like that, where you maybe get up to 3 games, and you can either do a game here, stop the game later, or you can do 3 games in a row if you're just testing it out. That way, maybe at the end of the year, hey, this guy's a better fullback than a running back. I want to, or that's not the best example, but maybe he's a better wide receiver than tight end or something, and you want to end up doing that at the end of the season. So kind of a way to test it. I mean, right now you have that red shirt 3 games into the year in real life, so it's kind of giving you that, that you get these couple extra games where you can test somebody at a different position without necessarily affecting their work ethic or anything like that. And on that, I think, if at the end of the year you're going to change their position, I don't think that work ethic hit should happen. It does currently, especially as they get older, they really don't like that anymore.
Yes, yeah.
So maybe, tweaking that a little bit, or if he hasn't played for his freshman and sophomore year, you change his position as a junior, like, well, maybe now he's going to play as a tight end instead of 5th string wide receiver, so that's a lot of intricacies that I'm sure would take a lot of time to figure out. But you know what I mean? I think the idea behind all of this, and they've mentioned it before, that they want to make it as real as possible without making it so that the game is bogged down and can't run very well. So I think there's a ton of things, I think, it's a good idea to be able to change positions. People, like you said, they do it all the time. Or you get a freshman out of high school, what side of the ball is he going to play? Is he going to be a DN for me? Or is he going to be a linebacker? Or is he going to be a wide receiver? You get some time to make that decision. So,
and you mentioned some examples there, and of the temporary change or the grace period change. And another benefit would be, if you're deep in the playoff game and you're playing a guy that runs the ball a bunch, but you're primarily a 3-4 defense, but you've also got a similar 4-3 defense or 4-4 defense formation IQ, because you've been practicing it throughout the year. You temporarily move a linebacker into a defensive end position to run a 4-man front against that particular one. And then you go back to your next opponent is a passing, and you make some position changes to get some beef up there rather than having to use some of your quality guys as backups at that point. So those could be some great advantages. Now, another caveat to that, and it's actually coupled with what's going on with the promised sophomore starts. You promise a sophomore start and then you don't renew. And then once the new coach or job change period happens, you renew, or you take your team back, I should say, and those promise starts and as sophomores disappear.
Right.
So you could actually add in the caveat that, you can change positions throughout the year, but you have to renew for the upcoming year before you can change those positions after game 5. What that does, by the fact that you have renewed, it takes away the opportunity for that coach at the end of the year to let his team disappear and then take it over again and drop all those sophomore starts. He would then have to be committed to those sophomore starts. And it would allow you to change positions and at the same time punish you from doing that loophole that we all exploit. So it kind of makes you use your strategies a little bit better in your decisions. Do I want to make these additional changes, or do I want to drop all these sophomore starts later?
Right. Well, and if nothing else, if they retain the recruiting budget, why don't promise to stay? You know what I mean? That could also be something that they could implement in there too. Like if they're going to retain it as it was when they left, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a variety of different ways to fix all those low things, and I'm just glad I'm not in the background working on it. Now, Shannon has mentioned that he's curious to see if you're going to be cruising the boards. looking for some of those non-customer service related issues that pop up and address them.
Yeah, so as I kind of get more comfortable with the role, my plan is to use my username that I am using as the What is Sports site staff member. But right now, I peruse them a little bit. If I know them, I have been maybe not responding on that username. I've been using my other one. But if I know them, yes, and as I get more comfortable, my intention is to be constantly active with the community, kind of like Adam was, in the forums. I know Chris already is, he brought up, but, he saw us posting about this before he even, before I even told him I was coming on. So they're in there. We're all kind of perusing the forums a little bit. But yes, my plan is to, be more active with the forums through that and answering any questions that may come up through that, or, maybe taking an extra look at something if, someone has an issue with the end game logic or something like that and they don't want to submit a ticket, So,
well, I'd love to have you guys on either together or individually, at least, every other show or so, have, if nothing else, just 10, 15 minutes for updates that aren't made available on the forum. And because a lot of the stuff that we discuss on the show would just be a lengthy, drawn-out thread on the forums, with,
right.
with 8,000 inputs and 7,000 of those being facetious or somebody trying to be funny. There's a place for that, but I like to get cut to the chase and get the answers and move on. So, you guys, and I've shared it with Chris as well, y'all have an open invitation to come on the show anytime that we're running it. And even if you have something special that you want to broach or present, you can let me know and we can dedicate that entire show to the customer support team to get information out there. I know the community really enjoys being able to interact, if nothing else, just by watching a video and hearing what you guys have to say, because back in the old days, we had the pleasure of the Dev chats. And while those were great, those were live, so to speak, and interactive, you don't get the same value of information from the information in typing and written form that you do by, seeing someone face to face in the video. You get to see the facial expressions. You kind of, you can kind of tell that, okay, yeah, this is sarcasm. And you type out that the new update will be released next week. And you got half the people out there going great, and the other half were like, no, he's kidding. And now you got an argument, was he kidding? But here you go. And everybody knows you're joking. So
and I think it wasn't like anyone was trying to back off. I think kind of with everything, with Adam transitioning out and then them trying to figure out what they were going to do staffing wise and then bringing new staff on. I think just that whole transition, and Chris being pretty much now solely doing all of it again. I think it was just like, we want to be active. Everybody wants to be around the community. We know that this is a very active community and they really enjoy interacting with the people behind the scenes, and we enjoy interacting, back. So I think as things kind of settle in here and, we get things, once they're able to kind of start developing and continuously roll things out or make changes or whatever, I think it'll be a little easier and we can get kind of a flow.
Now, you mentioned Adam is no longer with What If Sports, but does he still have, is he still a resource that you guys can tap into from time to time?
Yeah, so I think he's not really like considered part of it, but he's still around. He doesn't answer site mail. He's admitted to that since day one, but he's still around. I contacted him a little bit, as this whole thing was kind of going around, and I've reached out to him and we've talked a little bit. But yeah, he said, if there's anything, there's still a resource. I know we have there's a Gridiron Dynasty Slack chat that some people are in, and I know that he's still occasionally active on that. So he's still around a little bit. I don't know how much he is, or, even if he's really paying attention to Hoops Dynasty, or if he's even still in Hoops Dynasty. I honestly haven't even looked, but I think he's still around a little bit. He just kind of wants to get back to playing the games and focusing on his other job.
He's doing his own thing.
Yeah.
Now, what about Sebel? Is he still around, or is he totally disappeared?
So he's still in Worlds. I know that he's still got his username out there. But as far as if he's got anything, a hand in the cookie jar to, or whatever. I haven't heard anything on that. I think he pretty much kind of took a step back. I think he was on the grind so long with What If Sports by himself that I think he kind of was looking for a pause, as far as what he's doing or if he is around. Yeah, I don't know that for sure.
Okay. Going back to the board, the chat forum, if you will, for this particular show, Shannon asked, and I know this is an extremely serious question because I've never heard it before. So this is an extremely serious question that nobody's ever heard before, but he wants to know, what position in the depth chart is the fullback? How many times have we heard that question?
Yeah,
right. from folks that are just coming on and either too busy to read the forums or do some research. They're just throwing questions out there. So the real question is, what is being done about the knowledge base and about the how to play Gridiron Dynasty threads that are out there?
Right. So right now, I talked with Chris about the forums right now. He wants to kind of get those modernized. And I think probably, I had the idea of maybe like trying to house some of the more important information or creating because kind of with my role, like as it develops and grows, since like I'm really the first customer service person dedicated strictly to What If Sports like ever, they kind of I think at some point I plan on like trying to get a better how-to guide or all that information on the forums, putting it into one spot and pinning it so that people don't have to scroll through 50 pages of forums or find the same forum thread 70 times, but they also got like 50 different answers. So trying to house legitimate information in one spot, putting it as a priority toward the top, or just even redoing some of the guides that would be a little more helpful, if we end up going YouTube routes, you've done some, there's a couple other people that have done some videos recently trying to, just show people the ropes. And I think that's great. And being able to maybe incorporate those a little bit, I think would be huge too, because, I know whenever I try a new game, there's only so much I can do in the forums. Like I don't like sitting there reading forever and trying to find the one topic. If I could go and I could type in, hey, I want to know how to create a formation or a playbook or whatever, and boom, a video pops up. It's very basic, but a video pops up and I could watch that just to get the gist. Like that would keep my attention so much more than scrolling through pages and pages of forums.
Has there been go ahead.
You're fine. Go ahead.
Has there been any thought to maybe linking that information or those resources, assets on the actual part of the game where it's being sought? Like if I'm on my formations tab and I'm setting up my formations and I see that I've got the I formation pro set, Notre Dame box, whatever across, there may be a how-to or some type of link on that particular page. Same with the rosters.
Right.
You have a link on the rosters page and you have all the questions that pertain to rosters. When do I redshirt? When do I cut? When can I sign? That to me would be valuable rather than leaving the game to look in the forums for an answer. It's right there where I'm working at it.
So as far as like like I said, Chris has kind of started working on an interface. I haven't seen it yet. Hopefully soon we'll kind of get together and I'll be able to see what he's got going and that kind of thing. So I don't know if that's a thing. I know that, I just signing up from games now. I know that Hardball Dynasty or some of the other ones. I don't know if Gridiron does at D3. It's been a while since I've done that, but I think they'll pop up like, this is the first time you visited this page. This might be some key information. So I think they kind of have the workings of some of that. But as far as like maybe, a consistent link, because I hear you, like there's times where I will even like, so wait, when I'm using this formation, where do I need to go to set my depth chart a certain way or whatever? And I have to, click at the top, go to the Gridiron 201, click the formations. So yeah, it's kind of a hassle. It'd be nice to be able to just pop that up right there, even in another window, so you could have it side by side with what you're looking for.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely something we can discuss as we kind of move forward with things and see if that's something we can implement pretty easily.
And before we let you go, there's one more thing that I've personally gotten some site mails on, and I've always wondered this myself too, is why are our recruit searches restricted to 300? You should, if there are 500 running backs, in your vision, and that's a vision is a discussion for another time. But if you've got 500 running backs in your, vision, that 301st running back, based on whatever search method you use, may be the one best suited for your offense. And you don't get to see him unless you massage those recruit search functions, and those can be such a pain in the butt. Or better yet, just have a drop down to where you can dump something to Excel or whatever program you want to use, to where every recruit in D2 is available, or every recruit in D1 AA, kind of like what EZ has going on right now.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I think that would be something that's cool. For me, I'm trying not to divulge too much here, but I tend to use those filters a lot more, I guess. So I will filter strength for a running back needs to be X,
right?
Work ethic needs to be X, and that helps a little bit. But I guess maybe I guess I couldn't see a reason that we couldn't expand that to more than 300. I thought you meant like the number of people you could have scouted or whatever at 150 or whatever. That's where I thought you were going at first. But people run out of scouting people too at the lower levels. But I don't, because the data's already there, so I without think the system would have like a hard time pulling it. So that that could be something we could definitely look into, just expanding a little bit. It may seem a little bit crazy, but I'm sure there's somebody out there that could totally benefit from being able to see more results in a page or whatever. So
and as far as the 150 limit on the recruits, for those people who are listening that aren't aware of this, and I know many of you are, so just go get a drink or something. This is for those who don't know. Once you've reached that 150 on your summary page showing the recruits that you have scouted, and recruiting has started to where they're beginning to respond to your recruiting effort, all you have to do is send somebody a assistant coach phone call, and it puts them on that page just as if you're watching them. So now you're at 151. I've had over 400 recruits on my summary page at one time early on, years ago, because, you send phone calls back when the Yahtzee tool was working. You could send a phone call to everybody in your vision for, $10, and that's a couple $1,000, but lo and behold, your summary page would show 200 plus recruits. So you're only limited to 150 by using that watch or that initial recruiting effort. Once that 150 has been reached, all you got to do is minimal recruiting effort, and they'll be added to your summary. So for those that don't know, now you know. You're welcome.
Good piece of information.
Yeah, we're at 45 minutes, and I know you got to roll, so we're going to go ahead and get you out of here. Jordan, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And again, you're welcome on anytime, definitely. Anytime you guys need the platform or the forum, I'm all yours. Just holler at me, let me know, and we'll get something set up. But
perfect.
Thanks for being with us tonight, brother.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on, and I definitely plan on being on in the future as we get things rolling. So thank you.
Beautiful. Everybody else, good night. This is your host, Majique, and we'll see you on the next one.